I still remember the sound before I remember the words. Paper hitting wood, flat, sharp, loud enough that the whole room felt it. I was halfway through putting my pencil down when my test landed on my desk like evidence in a courtroom. Not slid, not handed, slammed. This doesn't add up. That was all Ms. Caldwell said at first. She didn't look at me. She looked at the paper, then out at the class like she was inviting everyone else to solve the mystery of how a girl like me ended up with a perfect score. 30 kids. No one breathed. I looked down. A big red 100 circled at the top. I should have felt proud. Instead, my stomach dropped. Because I already knew what was coming. You expect me to believe she continued tapping the paper with her nail that you got every question right, including the bonus, on your own. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. Yes, I said. Quiet, honest. I studied. A few kids snickered. Someone behind me whispered something I didn't catch, but I didn't need to. I'd heard versions of it my whole life. Ms. Caldwell smiled, not the warm kind, the kind that tightens at the edges. I've been teaching for 18 years, she said, voice calm, controlled, and I know when something doesn't make sense. She finally looked at me then. Not curious, not impressed, suspicious. That will be all she said. Gather your things. That's how fast it happened. No questions, no conversation, no benefit of the doubt. Just judgment. As I stood up, chair legs scraping against the floor, I could feel eyes on me, some excited, some relieved. It wasn't them, most just watching, like this was entertainment. I kept my face neutral the way I'd learned to do a long time ago. My hands were shaking, so I shoved them into my hoodie pockets, fingers wrapping around the smooth edge of the small coin I carried everywhere. A habit, a reminder. Out in the hallway the air felt colder, or maybe that was just me. The assistant principal didn't ask me what happened. He already knew. That's what he said. Knew enough to escort me straight to the office like I was a problem that needed containment. Sitting in that chair across from the desk, I realized something that hurt more than the accusation itself. No one was trying to figure out if I cheated. They'd already decided I must have. Because girls like me weren't supposed to be exceptional. We were supposed to be good, improving, trying hard, not flawless. They gave me a choice. At least that's what they called it. A verification assessment. Public, observed, timed, designed, they said, to clear my name. Pass, and the accusation would quietly disappear. Fail, and the consequences would stick not just here, but on my record. It sounded fair if you didn't listen too closely. But I did listen. I always listened. And what I heard wasn't fairness. It was fear. They weren't worried I'd cheated. They were worried about what it meant if I hadn't. At home that night, my mom paced the kitchen while I sat at the table spinning that coin between my fingers. She was angry in that quiet way that scares people more than yelling. They didn't even call me first, she said. They just decided. I nodded. I know. She stopped pacing and looked at me. Are you okay? That question almost broke me. Almost. I will be, I said. And I meant it not because I felt strong, but because something in me had shifted. I wasn't going to beg to be believed. I was going to make it impossible to doubt me. The next 2 days I didn't cram. I didn't panic. I did something better. I paid attention. I read the assessment guidelines. Every line, every footnote. I noticed what they emphasized and what they rushed past. I noticed the language they used, words like standardized, objective, flexible at the administrator's discretion. That last part mattered, because discretion cuts both ways. The day of the assessment, the room was bigger than I expected. The library had been rearranged, desks spaced out, a long table in front where the teachers sat like judges. A few unfamiliar adults stood along the walls, clipboards in hand. Ms. Caldwell avoided my eyes. That told me more than any speech could. The test started. Hard questions, some way beyond our grade. I answered calmly, steadily, not rushing. I could feel her watching me, waiting for cracks. They didn't come. Halfway through, I raised my hand. Ms. Caldwell sighed, already irritated. Yes, I'd like clarification, I said, keeping my voice even, on the demonstration portion. She stiffened. What about it? The guidelines say I can request an alternate method to show my understanding. The room shifted. One of the observers looked up sharply. Ms. Caldwell hesitated just a second too long. Then she nodded. Fine, we'll discuss it after. After turned out to be right then. They presented their final challenge, something they clearly believed would end it. Complex, abstract, designed to overwhelm. I didn't rush. I stood up. I'd like to explain my reasoning out loud, I said, step by step. Silence. I started talking not fast, not flashy, just clear, calm. I explained why each assumption mattered, how one idea led to the next. I wasn't performing. I was thinking. And thinking, it turns out, is very convincing when you let people see it happen. Ms. Caldwell's confidence cracked first. Her pen stopped moving. Her jaw tightened. When I finished, I didn't smile. I just looked at her and said, "You never asked if I understood the material. You just decided I couldn't." No one interrupted me. Not the principal, not the observers. That's when I knew it was over. They backtracked, of course. Apologies wrapped in careful language. Offers, programs, opportunities suddenly available now that I was verified. I listened. Then I shook my head. "This was never just about me," I said. My voice was steady, but my chest felt tight. "It's about who gets doubted first and who doesn't." They didn't have a good answer for that. I walked out of that building feeling lighter than I had in years. Not triumphant, not angry, clear. Because here's the truth, and it took me a long time to learn it. Some people don't question results. They question people. And when you finally see that you stop trying to prove yourself to the wrong audience, you just become undeniable. So let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. Have you ever been doubted not because you were wrong, but because you didn't fit what success was supposed to look like? Tell me in the comments. I'm listening.